Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Today, we continue our series Foundations by exploring one of the most essential aspects of ceremonial practice, the altar. Across countless ancient traditions, there exists a sacred place set apart from ordinary life. In Western ceremonial magic, that place is the altar. To someone unfamiliar with the tradition, it may appear to be nothing more than a simple table. Yet an altar is far more than furniture. It is the place where symbols cease to be merely symbolic, where intention begins to take form, where everyday life is quietly left behind. Here, a different quality of attention is born, a space in which human will is carefully woven into the fabric of ritual. The history of the altar stretches back thousands of years. From the sacrificial tables of the ancient world to the carefully ordered workspaces of the Western ceremonial tradition, its purpose has remained remarkably consistent. It has always served as the meeting point between the visible and the invisible, the place where an idea begins its journey toward manifestation. A true altar contains very little that is accidental. Every object has its place. Every direction carries meaning. Every detail belongs to a larger pattern. Before speaking about rituals themselves, we should first understand the foundation upon which every ritual rests. Over centuries, the altar evolved as a reflection of cosmic order, a world in miniature where each element fulfills its role, every instrument has its purpose, and every action serves a conscious intention. Within the Western ceremonial tradition, the altar is not simply a working surface. It is a symbolic model of the universe, a place where a practitioner deliberately establishes a relationship between the self, the symbol, and the act. One of the most recognizable features of many ceremonial altars is the presence of 4 candles placed at the cardinal directions. These are often associated with the Watchtowers, an idea whose roots reach back into ancient cosmological traditions before later finding expression in the Enochian system. The 4 directions represent 4 currents, 4 boundaries, 4 elemental powers that bring order to what would otherwise remain chaos. The candles are not merely sources of light. They define sacred space. They remind us of the presence of the elements, and they gently guide the mind into the language of ritual. Traditionally, the East corresponds to air, the South to fire, the West to water, and the North to earth. Although different schools preserve different correspondences, the underlying principle remains unchanged. The altar is an ordered world in which every force has its rightful place. The ritual circle, often drawn around the working space, is commonly misunderstood. Many imagine it as a barrier protecting the practitioner from external influences. While that symbolism certainly exists, its deeper purpose is psychological. The circle marks the threshold between 2 states of consciousness. Outside it, we remain immersed in ordinary life. Inside it, we enter a state of deliberate intention. Within the circle, attention becomes focused. Thoughts begin to slow. Silence begins to deepen. The circle is not simply a boundary in space. It is the boundary between everyday awareness and ritual consciousness. The tools of the altar are not decorations. They are a language. The cup, the wand, the sword or dagger, the pentacle. Each represents one of the 4 elements. Each performs a specific function. The cup receives water and teaches receptivity. The wand directs fire into purposeful will. The sword belongs to air, bringing clarity, discernment, and the power to separate truth from illusion. The pentacle embodies earth, structure, stability, and manifestation. To work with these instruments is not merely to own them, it is to understand why each one stands where it does. Power has never depended upon precious stones, rare woods, or elaborate decorations. Its true source lies in clarity of purpose and the intelligent use of symbols. That is why an altar does not begin with a candle. It begins with a decision, the decision to dedicate a part of one's life to inner work. The true purpose of an altar is not found in its objects. It is found in the discipline of attention. The more order there is around us, the more freely the mind can focus upon a single intention. The order of the instruments, the order of the ritual, the order of our actions. Together, they quiet the constant noise of the mind and allow our intention to emerge with greater clarity. Many people believe that the more elaborate the altar, the stronger the magic. In reality, history tells a different story. Many remarkable practitioners began with nothing more than a small wooden table and a single candle. Just as expensive brushes cannot make someone an artist, an altar alone cannot make someone a practitioner. Practice begins within. The quiet dialogue between the elements and the tools of the altar reveals something deeper about our relationship with the world itself. Here, fire meets water, air meets earth, will becomes form, emotion becomes substance, thought becomes the blueprint for action. Aleister Crowley described the altar as the physical projection of the mind. Eliphas Levi wrote that the altar is the meeting place of invisible forces, where human will becomes law for the spirits of nature. These are not merely poetic metaphors, they are practical instructions. The altar is a way of working with the invisible field that exists between intention and action. Yet, working with an altar requires more than precision. It requires honesty. Ask yourself a simple question each time you place an object upon it. Why is this here? What intention does it serve? Without a clear purpose, even the rarest object becomes little more than decoration. With genuine intention, even an ordinary stone can become the center of your practice. That is why I encourage you to begin simply. Choose one tool, one candle, one intention. Learn the ritual not as a performance, but as a quiet exercise in strengthening your own will. Here is a simple practice for beginners. Light a single candle. Place a bowl of clean water beside it. Write your intention on a small piece of paper. Read it aloud. Then place it beneath the pentacle. Sit quietly within your circle for 3 minutes, following the rhythm of your breathing. When you are finished, offer a moment of gratitude, nothing more. This is not a performance. It is an exercise in attention. An altar teaches patience, discipline, and humility. Sometimes the most meaningful work is not adding something new, but removing what is unnecessary. A clearer space often reveals a clearer mind. Remember that an altar is never a command given to the universe. It is a conversation. Magic is not about forcing reality to obey your wishes. It is about learning to cooperate with the forces that already surround you. And like every meaningful conversation, it begins by listening. Before we finish, I'd like to mention some of the most common mistakes people make when creating an altar. Many spend years searching for rare objects, convinced that beauty, rarity, or expense will somehow replace inner work. But no object, however extraordinary, can substitute for a clear intention. Another common mistake is allowing ritual to become mechanical. The movements remain, the words are spoken, the gestures are performed. Yet the heart is no longer present. When that happens, even the most beautiful ritual becomes little more than an elegant puppet with no life within it. A third mistake is seeking results for their own sake. Sometimes we become so eager to witness something extraordinary that we forget to ask a far more important question. Why do I truly seek this? Whenever that question has no honest answer, it is often wise to simplify. Remove everything that does not nourish your intention. What remains is usually enough. Let me offer you one final gentle practice. Close your eyes. Take one slow, steady breath. Now imagine your altar, not as an object before you, but as a quiet warmth within your chest, not an image, a feeling. As you inhale, allow that warmth to rise toward your throat. As you exhale, imagine it flowing softly through your hands toward the objects upon your altar. Repeat this 3 times, without haste, without expectation. Simply notice what changes. This is not a magical formula. It is a way of allowing your intention to become something your whole being can recognize. Care for your altar in simple, everyday ways. Keep it clean. Refresh the water in the cup. From time to time, revisit the intention that rests at its center. These small acts are not empty habits. They are quiet reminders that meaningful practice grows through consistency, not spectacle. I also encourage you to keep a simple journal. Write down the date, your intention, what you did, and how you felt afterward. Over time, those pages will reveal something remarkable. They will help you distinguish genuine inner change from passing emotion. Even when it seems that nothing has happened, you may later discover that the transformation had already begun. And finally, remember this: an altar does not wait for perfect tools. It does not ask for rare objects. It waits for your readiness. Do not feel that you must begin with everything. Begin with one candle, one clear intention, one honest promise to yourself. Sometimes a single quiet step becomes the beginning of an entirely new direction in life. Aleister Crowley regarded the altar as the physical projection of the mind. Eliphas Levi described it as the meeting place of invisible forces, where human will becomes law for the spirits of nature. Whether you see these words as philosophy, symbolism, or practical guidance, they point toward the same truth. An altar is not a place where magic happens. It is a place where you begin to change. If today's episode has helped you see the altar from a new perspective, I'd be delighted if you subscribed to the channel and joined me for the next chapter of our journey. In our next episode, we'll leave the altar behind and step into another fascinating world, the magic of the planets. Not astrology, not astronomy, but the symbolic language through which generations of practitioners understood the living forces of the cosmos. Until we meet again, keep exploring, keep seeking. May your path be steady and your questions never cease. My name is Desiro. Thank you for sharing this journey with me.